Hello and welcome to episode 5 of How Would You Run That? A Dungeons & Dragons podcast and ideas factory with me, Lucas Tomlinson.
And me, Jake Canner.
In this podcast, we will be discussing some aspect of Dungeons & Dragons. An encounter, location, trap, puzzle, NPC, PC, god, magic item, or really anything that can exist in the world of Dungeons & Dragons. Importantly, we'll then be asking each other the question, how would you run that? At the end of each episode, one of us will then reveal the topic for the next week, and ask the other, how would you run that? Giving us a week to prepare, research and plan how we would run said thing.
This week's episode is on the recurring villain. Lucas, how would you run that?
Okay, so here's the thing. I was thinking before the podcast, what can I ask for sort of idle chit-chat section?
Right.
And I thought, what's the worst thing that's happened to you this week? And I thought, that's terrible. Let's keep it upbeat. So, Jake, for the ears of the public, what's the best thing that's happened to you this week?
The best thing that's happened to me this week? I had fish and chips last night, and it was glorious.
Nice.
And that was always great. I mean, it's been a while since I've just sampled the delights of the chippy, and given that I live right in the centre of the country, I'm as far from the sea as you can possibly get. Fish is not exactly the delicacy of the area, but that was a wonderful thing. What else has even happened to me this week? That's basically it. I mean...
Fine. That's pretty exciting. That's more exciting than my week so far.
Busy work week, and it went alright, so...
Oh, nice. Cool.
Pretty dandy, yeah.
Good.
Have I ticked the box of what happened this week? What's the best thing that happened to you this week?
Oh, damn it. I should have seen this coming.
Have you finished your bloody wardrobe yet?
Yes, wardrobe was built. I did that, week ago Sunday?
Mm-hmm.
So just after we spoke last. And I've started filling it. It's got some clothes in it now.
Okay, cool.
As part of, room prep, we had to move all the clothes upstairs into the attic, out of the way.
Yeah.
And now I've slowly started bringing things down, which, in all honesty, would probably be like a 10-minute job to go up and down the stairs a few times. But I've told myself it's more efficient to, when I have to go upstairs, bring something with me.
Right.
So the times that I remember, I do. But it means I've still got 3 stacks of t-shirt and some shorts up there that, no rush.
It means that this 10-minute job has now lasted, 2 weeks?
Well, yeah, a week and a half now. See, I feel like this is the trap you put me in. Every time I have this idle chit chat, it's like, what is Charlotte going to be annoyed at you this week for? Just playing me into a corner, Jake.
Oh, found some teaspoons.
Where were the teaspoons?
The
Teaspoon
majority,
saga?
yeah, the majority of the teaspoons were in the drying up place. They had all been washed up at the same time. God knows where they'd spread themselves around the 4 corners of the planet before then, but they all seemed to come together in some sort of beautiful reunion of please wash me.
Did Abby hear you recording that segment and during the time that you were in the room with the door closed, used that time to collect the rogue teaspoons for wherever she'd hidden them?
Wouldn't put it past her.
Right, that's enough idle chit chat.
Yes, good. Okay, let's move on. So, today's actual podcast episode, the theme or the prompt is a recurring villain. So, Lucas, how would you run that?
I instantly went to a Revenant for the recurring villain.
You went to a what, sorry?
A Revenant.
A Revenant.
Revenant. So, page 259 of the Monster Manual is the Revenant. The Revenant's I realised last week we didn't really explain what Durgar were, we started talking about them. So, a Revenant, right. for people that might not know, is a zombie-like creature. It's someone who's died in some sort of terrible, horrible way, whose soul is not yet allowed to leave for the afterlife. So they return to unlife so that they can pursue some goal. The idea of a ghost has some unfinished purpose. A Revenant has that, but its purpose is usually murder a specific person.
Okay, cool.
So they'll try and do it. They might try and get help because they're an intelligent enough creature. If they think that it's going to be too tough to go direct.
Yeah.
They know at all times where their target is.
Oh man, that's a power, isn't it?
Yeah. So I thought this would be a good way to get around the recurring part of that because for the most part, I guess anything that ends up in a combat encounter with a party is going to get killed.
Yeah.
So I saw the recurring bit as the main issue. But
okay.
Yeah, so that was my first thought, and I sort of mulled it over and I tried to find ways of making that a bit interesting, and it didn't really stick with me because the Revenant, when destroyed, basically comes back within 24 hours. But the limiting factor for a Revenant is it's only got a year to fulfill its purpose.
Okay.
So they only last for a year. If they don't do their purpose within a year, that's it. Time's up, Revenant's gone.
Yeah.
So I thought, I don't want to limit myself to something, or I have to. Well, you can always explain it away, but I don't want to really. I want something else. So I went back to the source books, looking around, and I came across something I thought was a bit more interesting.
Cool.
And said thing, the Raven Queen.
Ah.
Because she is a pretty interesting goddess. So I thought I'd go for the. I was reading through Mordenkainen and Tomofus.
Tomofus? The Tomofus?
I was looking through Mordenkainen's Tomb of Foes.
Right, I'm familiar with that.
And in there, it's got a section on the Raven Queen and the Shadowfell and the Shadar-Kai. And I sort of knew vaguely that Shadar-Kai, their souls return to the Shadowfell after they die. I reread it and found that, their souls return and they're brought back to life. They're basically immortal beings.
Yeah.
The Shadar-Kai are what used to be a form of elf that dwell on the Shadowfell and hold the Raven Queen and do her bidding.
Sure.
The Shadowfell being a different plane of existence that is pretty much deathscape.
Yeah, it's
pretty grim.
Black and white, and magic doesn't work properly, and everything's just minging.
Yeah, so the Raven Queen, basically her motives are, I want to capture memories and things that have emotional or, historical significance, collect stuff and souls and memories. And the Shadar-Kai go out and do those things for her.
Okay.
And she gives them, vague signs to, she'll send out her crows to... Oh, sorry, her ravens, not crows. Daft. Sends out her ravens and, so the Shadar-Kai go out and follow these ravens and do what they think she's telling them to do. Yeah. They'll go to a place and wait for something terrible to happen there, some miserable thing, and then capture that memory somehow, or some item, or a person, or a soul, and take it back to the Raven Queen, thinking that's what she wants.
Right.
So, with that in mind, I thought, where can we get a group of edgy edgelords who edge with horrible backstories that isn't reflected in the sort of jovial nature of their regular day-to-day interactions, but that also sometimes go on big murder sprees?
I wonder where I could possibly find such a troupe.
Yeah, because I think the Raven Queen probably interested in such a party. So that's basically my thinking. She has some sort of vague interest in the party. She sends the Shadar-Kai out to go and, get them, either with the purpose of stealing stuff from them that is significant to those characters, trying to kill them and bring them back to the Shadowfell. But basically, the way I'm going to balance the encounter all the time is it's going to be not a too difficult encounter. It's going to be a party-on-party sort of matchup. But because they keep, once they're killed, they come back, we can have them as a recurring villain. So I'm going to have one of them be the face of the group. And who he comes with every time is different, but he's the guy that the party recognise as the recurring villain. Okay,
so am I getting this right then? The Raven Queen is in charge of your party of Revenants? Is that what's happening here?
No, sorry. I'm ignoring the Revenants entirely. Sod the Revenants.
Okay.
I've left them behind. I'm going for a group of Shadar-Kai.
Group of Shadar-Kai.
So, like I said, they're former elves. They dwell on the Shadow Plane.
Yeah.
Shadowfell. And they do the Raven Queen's bidding. So she's going to send them out to rough up the party, try and steal items of significance from them. Otherwise, go for whichever in the party has the most dead parents and try and focus fire down on them with the goal of trying to bring them back to the Shadowfell.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay, I'm with you then. And then because they are of the Shadowfell, they have that same property of you kill them and they just bounce back to their plane and go back to being grisly.
Yeah, so the Raven Queen, because they are, in servitude to her, she ensures their souls are returned to the Shadowfell and they are immortal as a result. They do not fear death because they can't die. Well, they can, but of old age after about 500 years or something like that. So
right.
During their sort of regular mortal lives, they can be killed and killed again and just keep coming back, and they're not bothered.
Okay, cool. So you got a bunch of these Shadar-Kai. You said one of them is going to be the prominent, recognizable one. Yeah,
so that's the thing. So it's one guy. He's the main sort of antagonist. He's the recurring villain who's does the dialogue with the party beforehand, tells them what's going on a little bit. they kill him, and he comes back. They're like, oh, it's you again. So, but who he brings with him, depending on how the fight goes, he can sort of tailor the group or what he brings to the table to, well, basically whatever the DM wants. But, supposedly to try and defeat the OP thing from the party from the last battle. So
that's very nice.
Yeah. And also the interesting thing with Shadar-Kai, to sort of make this something that you can scale through the campaign, there are a few Shadar-Kai examples of monsters. So you've got there's level 7, level 9, and level 11, right? So they're quite high levels.
Yeah.
But you can also have Shadar-Kai as a playable race. Mm-hmm. So you could do like a party. You could do like 3 rogues, level 1, and just play them like that. Play them like player characters to face off against the party or something.
Nice.
But you can start at like really low level, and like this guy can basically just level up as he goes along and change his entourage.
That's a particularly delicious little idea. I like that. Purely because, as you said, okay, so you as a DM have an opportunity to challenge your party time and time again because you know them inside out, or even to bring in a counterparty that would play to some of their strengths. So you give them one or two of them the opportunity to do their super badass stuff that they maybe don't get to do that often. Mm-hmm. But because there's a story-driven reason why there's a different party of enemies this time. So, you used a load of fire magic last time, so here I've brought somebody made of water or something with some either hard counter or something that leans massively into their strength because your Shadar-Kai, your Shadow King, has misinterpreted it and cocked it up. But I like it.
Yeah, so exactly. And or he could better arm himself or defend himself, or, if he knows from the last time that your wizard is going to absolutely mess us up if he gets whatever spell off, then, he ambushes them and casts silence over the wizard as like the first action. Basically, whatever works well last time, that's what he's going to try and snuff out first.
Yeah.
But ultimately, it's just an excuse to do whatever I want in any combat encounter.
In that moment, then, you've kind of countered my secondary question, which is how do you stop a recurring villain from just becoming dead? There are a few different things you could possibly do with a recurring character or someone that you think, an antagonist to the party that doesn't necessarily end up with them being dead. But in particular, if you're going to enter combat, usually that combat ends with a victory, and the fact that these people can just poof back to the Shadowfell.
Yeah,
excellent.
And I saw it also as a bit of, you could have this as a side plot. Like, if the party's on their main quest and they know they're going to town X or they've got quest marker Y or whatever, this is just, these guys are basically just like irritants. They just turn up whenever they want, throw down some combat, and then they're all killed off because they're not going to flee, they're not scared of death. Like if they're captured, they'll take their own life or something. Yeah. And then they're just gone and out of mind, and there's no way to go after them because what are you going to do? You're going to head to the Shadowfell and take on all of the Shadowfell? No chance. Firstly, how are you going to get there? That's going to be a big question. Mm-hmm. But then secondly, that place is so dangerous, there's no chance. Especially if you're a low-level party. So they can just turn up whenever they like. If you feel like you need a bit of combat to break things up, drop him in, and he's there. But again, like I said, like as it levels up, as the party level up, you can just keep increasing that challenge rating that you're going to bash against them.
Okay. You know who immediately comes to mind as you describe that?
Who?
Team Rocket.
I also thought Team Rocket. Honestly, that's one of the things I had in my mind when you asked me for a recurring villain. I was like, who's a recurring villain that keeps coming back?
Just this idea of they're an irritant, a constant thorn in their side. I mean, okay, Team Rocket are always doing their own thing and they get thwarted. That's a slightly different approach to a recurring villain. But just the way you were describing the fact that they turn up, they're a thorn in the side, and then they get defeated and go away. That's the first thing that just popped back into my head.
Yeah, no, I thought the same thing, and I thought about like how you could do that.
Okay. So we got this like party of Shadar-Kai. Cool.
Yeah.
How would you play them? Unless I'm just imagining like a full campaign, 1 to 20. You've got a big old epic going on, and these are some recurring side plot. Cool. How would you play them? So what I mean by that is, would you start them off as, are they going guns blazing to try and perform the Raven Queen's bidding, or are they going to start off being, are they going to be stealing things and low-level petty crime almost, and then as they get further on, they become bigger and bigger deals? Or how do you bring them in?
They are going to come down. They're going to throw down. Like they're going to make it really clear. Like, I want to kill you, like party member X or Y, or like we've interpreted the Raven Queen's direction that you all must die. Yeah. And like have a little bit of dialogue at the start. Like, this is what's going to happen before just a straight up attack, at which they will lose. And then, the party's like, what the fuck was that? There's to be nothing clear on them to denote, to give them any sort of indication of where they've come from. It's going to be a bit of a mystery to start with. And then the fact that the same guy comes back and he's visibly the same guy, and he's like, you're not getting me this time. I've learned your tricks. It's just going to be the same again, but the way that the combat goes, or his approach, that character's approach to the combat's going to be different. But because they're immortal, they don't fear death. It can be sneaky, fine. If that's an encounter I want to do, that they're going to be ambushed, or they think they're going to be able to overpower this group because they're immortal. They can learn and become better. Whereas the party is, once they're down, that's it. It's the end for them. They're not going to be clutched up by the Raven Queen in the same way.
Sure. Would you give your party any forewarning? I'm just thinking, you said she sends out her ravens or something.
Yeah, exactly that. So these ravens that she sends out from the Fortress of Memories, which is her main castle place.
Yeah.
These are sort of omens. They're, cryptic messages that the Shadar-Kai try to follow. And basically, the ravens, the way it describes them, they basically lead the Shadar-Kai or groups of Shadar-Kai to places where travel between the planes is most easy.
Yep.
Shadar-Kai will travel to whatever place that the Raven Queen sort of leads them to, and then wait for some tragedy to strike. Because the Raven Queen mainly wants bad memories, like sorrow and tragedy. And you can say this can be anything from a scorned lover or something quite petty to a betrayal or murder or something. So they'll turn up in a place and wait to see what's going on and try to interpret what it is she wants.
Yeah.
So they're there, laying in wait for the party, wherever the party is. Because the Raven Queen's just go there, they'll turn up.
Sure. Do you have then in mind the first encounter? Have you had to script it, or would you rely on player backstory? How would you make this first tragedy occur?
Yeah, I think I would sort of tailor it to the party a bit. As the DM, knowing that, this character has a dark secret in their past they don't want them to know about, or, dead parents. You're at least going to have one person in the party who's not got a happy-go-lucky character. So anything sad, Raven Queen followers, Shadar-Kai, will be sort of waiting. Imagine, so let's say, first encounter is just while travelling between places.
Yeah. The
party is sort of setting up camp. They've noticed a few ravens, but why would they suspect anything? Because it's just while they're sort of looking around while they're walking, or they've heard cawing in the distance, or something to sort of play it in a little bit without saying there are ravens and now there are Shadar-Kai. Right, so just a sort of flavour while describing wherever they are. And then they'll be very blatantly approached by this main Shadar-Kai guy, who's going to be the recurring villain, and a couple of his cronies. And they'll be whatever level the party is, say there's a party of 4 level 2s or something, it'll be 3 level 1s or something, to counter it, relatively easy.
Yeah.
Let's say a rogue, a cleric, and a straight up fighter.
Yeah.
Really simple. Those are the characters. They walk up and say, you've been marked by the Raven Queen, addressing sort of implying quite broadly, there's great tragedy in you. Implying they know already. From their perspective, they've interpreted this sign that these people are what the Raven Queen wants. She wants the group for some reason. So something about them is miserable.
Delightful.
Yeah, without knowing what. So sort of, but the conversation, they will talk as if they know. This sign, they've interpreted it so clearly and so precisely. This party is what we're after.
Yeah, that's dogma level.
So he's talking amongst you is great pain and misery. We know this. It has been foretold. You must come with us. And then, assuming they're not going to come with them, the combat starts.
Yeah. Would that be an option then? Come back with us?
I guess now I've said it out loud, it would be.
No. Don't worry about this. But
no, it can't be. No, it's not going to be an option. Basically, as soon as you step towards them, they draw their weapons.
Right.
By come with us, they mean sacrifice your lives.
Yeah, your soul is en route, and there's one way to get there, and it's at the end of my blade.
You're not accompanying us as our guest. You're coming with us as bodies that we're going to give to our... Yeah, exactly. We are going to take you and all your possessions, in case it's something on your person, and deliver it to our queen.
Hmm.
But yeah, the conversation will start like, yeah, come with us.
So we can gank you in peace.
Yeah. And if they draw the weapons and the party still approaches them, then someone's going to get stabbed, and that's going to be combat starting.
Yeah, that's a convenient way to get the initiative going.
Yeah. So that's like the first encounter. I'm going to say that the two lackeys, they're not going to have any speaking parts. They're not as exciting.
They're just Crab and Goyle. Just like,
Yeah. Well, that's even more interesting than I was going to give them credit for, you know? But yeah, you could have Crab and Goyle. So we've got main lackey man and Crab and Goyle. Crab's the cleric because C and C.
Yeah.
Goyle's the fighter.
And then you've got to change the actor for one of them out because they do bad things in the public eye towards the end of the campaign.
You just swap one of them out. It's like, rather than it being like a cleric and a fighter, it's like a cleric and a ranger, you know?
Huh?
Yeah, but no, I honestly didn't think about having recurring other characters.
This was one villain after all. This is the recurring villain, so okay.
So he's the one that's like, he's determined, like, and after this first encounter with the party where he's been bested, he makes it then his mission that he's going to do this regardless. Like, you are who I'm after. And the Raven Queen keeps sending ravens to the party. Again, it's like, you subtly drop it in, so like, you know, maybe they start suspecting it after a while.
Yeah.
But yeah, he keeps turning up, and he keeps bringing different things with him from, you know, monsters that exist on the Shadow Plane, or perhaps mercenaries, you know, that if they're in a city or something,
yeah,
he can, like, you know, because basically, like, in the world of the Shadowfell, with people bringing stuff there constantly, like, there is stuff there. So if he's going to be going out into the world for the Raven Queen, I could see how he'd be able to get his hands on some useful items or some wealth to be able to buy off mercenaries.
I like that. Yeah, they're not just relying entirely on the. It's not. Well, I keep using Lord of the Rings, so they're not just using like the orcs they have at hand. This is someone with some intelligence and some gumption to find alternative means to achieve their goal. And this, your core villain there is almost, well, it is religious, isn't it? They are so hell bent on achieving this purpose that they've interpreted the sign. This is the truth. Get out of the way of my truth.
Exactly. And the Raven Queen could even send him to the mercenary hiring place, you know, like that's where he appeared on the material plane. It's like, this is a sign, you know, and then it leads him elsewhere. Like, you could anything you want him to do is just a sign from the Raven Queen, taking him to a place without giving any instruction, and he interprets that as doing whatever I would like him to do.
Gosh, gods are very convenient, aren't they?
Gods are. I've not used gods enough in campaigns, and I wish that I had, because for all the things I've tried to think up, like genuine reasons or like motivations for NPCs and stuff, it's like, just give them a god. Say that their god wants them to do it.
God did it.
Like,
yep.
Done. Spoke to me in a dream.
Yeah.
The way that my breakfast cereal landed in the bowl this morning means that I must do this. Like, it's all just divination of some sort.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, gods are handy.
Right. What else you got?
What else I got? Have you seen Cobra Kai?
Not enough of it, but I am familiar with the premise. If there's any specific detail, no, I've only seen a few of the episodes.
Basically, I thought, it's because I've binge-watched the latest season recently. But if we're having Shadar-Kai, might as well make them Cobra Kai Shadar-Kai.
Why not?
So basically, I'm picturing that this main recurring villain is basically Johnny Lawrence.
Okay.
From the show, the main guy.
Yep.
Who, I love it. I think it's so cool that he's like the original guy from the original film. Like, that's really cool. But anyway, yeah, I like him as a character. And I like all the crappy 80s references, like, you know, it's badass, like, it's obviously pussies. And so basically, the main guy, the recurring villain, is fantasy Johnny Lawrence.
Oh, okay. So we've almost got like the whole 80s synthwave thing about them as well. Is that going to play into their character, their speech, and their style? Yeah,
I guess it could if I was fast enough to think of all that stuff. But I've basically drilled it, like, condensed this character down into 3 catchphrases.
All right.
So the actual character says, "Quiet!" in a really strict way. So I'm taking that, but I'm just changing it to "Silence!" And so whenever like the party starts like giving him jib, it's just like "Silence!"
Okay.
To counter
Establish
it.
dominance.
Yeah. Like, he also says "badass" a lot, and I don't know, can't really think of anything to go for badass, but I want something to be good. So like he says, like just like in the middle of combat, like if someone does something clearly impressive,
okay,
just like him to say sensational. I know it's lame, right?
He's like the Mortal Kombat announcer.
Oh yeah,
or the Quake announcer.
the Quake. Oh yes, I'm trying to think of some Quake things now.
I mean, they're all very specifically a butcher, multi-kill, and all that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But that's sort of over the top. It is. It's really sort of 80s macho, isn't it? Machismo.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Well, that's it. It's all one word, just like directive. Like so, he would call the party sissies rather than pussies.
Wow.
You know, it's like, but like basically, it's just something that he would say repeatedly over the course of all these combats, so that they would associate that with him. And it's not exactly what the character would say, but it's like these are the three things that he said ever that I'm gonna.
And you'd lock into, and you're like, oh, he said the thing.
Silence. Oh. Sensational. And sissies.
I think it's wonderful. It's almost like he's a high school movie villain. Sort of, he's like the bully, the jock, or the something. Like he's got some almost such limited depth that it's so clear the tropes you're drawing from that you don't need to embellish much further, because anyone with a bit of pop culture background will just have this bank of characters to draw on. So, oh, they're like Prince Aldrin from Destiny. They're like Kaneki from Greece. They're like, you've got all these things to pull out of nowhere.
Yeah. So, and I think that's quite juxtaposed. So that's how he is in combat, when it's like, now it's serious business, compared to when he's talking about following prophecy and interpreting signs and wanting to return to the Shadowfell with the bodies of the party.
Right.
At which point I think he'd be quite eloquent and, blah, blah, blah.
Okay. Learned. What's this dude's name?
I faffed around with this. He's known as the Law.
The Law.
So I am the Law.
Okay, and then you fight the Law and the Law wins, and
the Law loses repeatedly. But he's just like his designation effectively is I am the Law.
Outstanding. Such a douche. I love it.
Yeah. Well, that's it. Well, he's got to be interesting and stand out to be recurring, but you don't want him to be lovable and endearing to the party. To be like, oh, he keeps coming back. Let's befriend him and make him part of the group.
The teddy bear of death. Nah.
He wants to kill you and fuck your shit up.
All right. The Law. What class is the Law?
Well, if he's going to be a Karate Kid, he's going to be a monk.
Good. I'm glad you said that. Okay.
So, yeah, he is a monk, and I think I'd probably make him Kensai monk so he can use actual weapons.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so he could like generally be a monk and level up as he's going and like be kick-ass karate man.
Yeah.
But yeah, again, like he brings with him whatever he wants to the party for fights.
Brilliant. Oh, big fan. I want to play against him. Yeah, I like that. There's just so many options with that, just as a concept to spin it anyway. But I think the way you've laid this out, the fact that they have this dogmatic approach to interpretation of the signs and just repeatedly throwing their carcasses at the problem until eventually they succeed. Yeah, I like it.
Well, yeah, I mean, he's throwing himself repeatedly, but he's, like I said, I try and make it at least look like he's trying to overcome the biggest obstacle from the previous fight. It's like he's only got one encounter memory.
Yeah.
Like if the wizard had a pretty quiet time the last time, he'll forget about him and he'll focus on what the biggest threat is the next time. So if it is the barbarian, say, and they're raging and just soaking up a lot of hits, then in the next combat he'll do something, some sort of magic user with him that will displace the barbarian so he can focus down the rest of the group or something.
Yeah.
Or psychic damage. Play on his lack of resistance there.
Yeah.
Basically, he'll be more optimal the more times we fight him.
Yeah. Cool, okay. Because this concept is so rooted in that religious tenacity of finding the party, defeat the party, claim their souls. Is there any scope, do you reckon, for some character development? Just in general with like Shadar-Kai, would you be able to turn them, for example? Would you be able to convert or convince them that they are wrong? I mean, I wouldn't want to leave that entirely to the mercy of the dice. You can't say, natural 20, you no longer believe in your god, because silliness. But Do you reckon there's any sort of scope for causing them to... Because maybe they keep fighting the party and they keep losing. Maybe that's a sign.
Yes, I get that. Okay, so let's say then, say that the party for some reason want to try and convince him that he's wrong in his quest to kill them. Like, the fact that he keeps failing is, as you say, a sign that that's obviously not the intention of the Raven Queen. Yeah, okay, let's throw it out then that maybe he's looking for some memory that he can extract from the party or some item of significance and he could be bartered with.
Yeah, okay.
So the party could try to persuade him that something they're trying to give him, rather than combat, what about this? This is the head of X or Y thing that we, killed in the last section.
Yeah.
Or, this magical item, if they're willing to give up a magic item, which I can't really imagine too much. But maybe, say, they really just, take a shine to him and they want to try and, give him something. Yeah. Try and give him a magic item that has some significance and tell him, they found it in this or that tomb, and try and explain its significance to him. And then, I guess, if you were to have that, you could have it be sort of them trying to sell in the idea. And I guess as a DM, then you could make them roll persuasion. But you could equally just, let them talk and, not saying anything to get them to say more.
Yeah.
To try and explain why this is the best fucking magic +1 sword you've ever seen.
Yeah. And because they don't have death as a threat, you don't have that same hold as you would over anyone else as a great big martial adventuring party here to ruin someone's day. Okay, fine, just do it. I'll come back with bigger guns,
Yeah. But yeah, so he could be potentially bought off with some item of significance. So especially if you had a sentient weapon, say, that'd be big plus for him. An item that formerly belonged to anyone of any historical significance or anything that's linked to a great tragedy. So if you had the character whose parents were killed by the bugbear, and that character had exacted his revenge and carried around some item that belonged to the bugbear, or if you had a letter, the last thing he has written of his parents or something, anything of any sort
something
of
importance
significance
like that. Yeah.
Yeah. He could be bought off with that item, and he would leave the party and return to the Shadowfell, only to return again in a few sessions' time because the Ravens are still drawing him to the party. And then, basically they can try and buy him off every time and give him stuff. And he, if they persuade him suitably, he'll take it. And if not, they'll have a combat and he'll come back again. So
yeah,
I guess that's one way you could have it. Then you're in the realm of, why are they not just going to cooperate with him fully and go with him?
That's a path I'd like to go down in a bit, yeah. Let's do it now. Yeah.
Okay.
So why would they not just think, okay, let's go to the Shadowfell?
I guess they could. If he has a means of traversing the plains, they could go with him. And sod it, why not? Let's go to the Shadowfell. Let's go and see how bloody horrible and terrible it is. And you can have the law, be your guide in the Shadowfell. You could go to the sort of horrible, desolate place it is with these sort of small towns and villages of Shadar-Kai who...
Yeah.
Well, I guess... Oh, that'd be interesting. So the Shadar-Kai, in any of the other planes, they look youthful and healthy.
Yes.
When they return to the Shadowfell, they look old and withered. And that's
and swollen, corpsey. Exactly,
because the Raven Queen is sort of drawing her energy from a lot of the Shadar-Kai. Yeah. So as soon as they went through the portal with the law, he would visibly change. So that's cool. But yeah, let's say so he takes them to where he lives and he shows them the stuff they've given him in the past or whatever. So then his goal is to take them to the Fortress of Memories, which I guess you could have as be a massive journey to sort of put the party off doing it.
Yeah.
I guess it depends. Do we want to actually go through with it and get them an audience with the Raven Queen?
Yeah, if your party doesn't understand the consequences of what they're going into here, this could be quite a sobering quest.
Yeah.
Hang on. I've just had another ping here with this to allow you some time for the cogs to tick. The law's taken party back to the Shadowfell. When the law is in the material plane, he is, and with the band of people that he brings with them, he is an enemy, a foe, but also a clear antagonist and almost one of a kind. You take the law to the Shadowfell, all of a sudden he's back in his society. So does he have a standing? Is he a massive joke? Is he trying to like gain favour with the Raven Queen or atone for some sins? Is it actually that he's just some washed up throwback that the rest of the Shadar-Kai are like, oh god, it's become the bloody law?
Yeah, maybe they have the law as being like an ironic name because he has no standing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that reflects also with Johnny Lawrence, doesn't it? He's a bit of a wash-up and a bit of a loser.
Yeah.
Yep, absolutely. So let's say then that's why no one else returns. Like everyone else follows the signs once, to go with him, whatever Shadar-Kai or
okay.
But then because he keeps failing, the others think that he's a bit of a joke, and maybe he had status before and now he's lost it, and that's why he's sort of clinging to this like, no, I'm in too deep now. This is my white whale.
Yep, that's it. No one else wants to get tarred with that brush, so they'll come along for one ride thinking it's a good job. It goes wrong. You think, well, I'm not going out with the law again.
Like he's following the worst ravens. Like those are the gammy ravens that no one wants.
These are actually crows. That could be a fun way to spin it, especially if they've gone, come to the Shadowfell, I'm taking your souls. And they go, okay. Was not anticipating this motion. So
okay, so let's anticipate then. So he goes back, and everyone's aware of him because he is a bit of a joke. He's a bit of a wash up, and he's failed so many times in trying to get them to go previous. But then now when he goes, you can't see it because their faces are old and decrepit. But there's admiration for the fact he's done it. Like he's succeeded finally, and like he's sort of walking around like with his tail up.
Here are your Moby Dicks. Yeah.
Yeah. How's it going with that group of halflings? Other character. Still trying. It's like, well, look what I got.
Just another day at the office.
Pretty sensational. You sissy.
He's such a knobhead.
Yeah. Well, this is. I think his pride comes before a fall. I think he is someone that is a lot of front and is a lot of sort of posturing and wanting to come, especially the party, because they don't know he's a joke.
No.
Unless you would have one of the other characters sort of like drop that in conversation somewhere. Like they see, I mean, he's called the law. He turns up. He's like beyond death.
You see what I mean? When he's in the material plane, he is a big old dude. He's a beast. He's a force to reckon with.
And to this party, he's a reasonably difficult encounter repeatedly, and he won't leave him alone. Get back to the shadow plane. And he's a bit of a joke, but like he's sort of like not admitting it. He's like fake it till you make it sort of thing. Like these people like jokers. You don't know, but I'm a big deal around here. So
they wish they could fight with the law.
Listen to what they say, bunch of sissies. So like, and let's say then, so they arrive back in Shadowfell, and this is because he's got such low status. This is a long way. It's going to be a hefty bloody journey in an attempt to deter the party from actually wanting to go. If they do want to go, then the law is going to become an NPC companion for them till they get there. And I say that they're going to come across all the horrible nasties of the Shadowfell.
Yep. This is full-on Walk to Mordor level of difficulty.
Yeah, that's a really good comparison. Like, it's a bleak landscape. It's rocky. There are monsters. Like, there's not much in the way of life or anything. And you've got this, like, corpse-like blonde-haired guy guiding you.
Yeah.
Who keeps talking about how things used to be better. Okay, so that's then like out in the wilderness and like encounters, and you could like throw up any sort of old sort of crypts or tombs or anything on the way if you want to. Like this is becoming much bigger than a recurring film. Like, this is now when they're sort of buying into the side quest.
Yeah, I realise I've dragged us off the path a bit.
It's fine because I guess this detour, as long as your main campaign isn't time sensitive.
Yeah.
It's fine. I mean, you could even sell it in as, if that was a thing that the party came up with, you could say that time moves differently on the Shadowfell.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah, so like,
they're basically Fae.
Yeah, like, it's for you it's been like 3 weeks since I saw you last, but for me it's been 5 years. I've been training, practicing, and that's why I've leveled up so much.
Ah.
So, if you were to come with me, we'll go to the Fortress of Memories and back. We'll be gone a few weeks there, but it's only be like a couple of hours here, so let's go to the Shadowfell. Yeah. Okay, cool. That explains that. And then you've got to plan a session for the Fortress of Memories, and that's going to be interesting.
That's a toughie for a DM, yeah. Why does this god want to meet you, and what would the outcome of it be? Because if you want to just walk away, then a deity can say no and stop that.
Thinking about the Raven Queen, I should have said this earlier when they first arrived.
Yeah.
So the Raven Queen has sort of like dominion over all of the Shadowfell, and she's aware of who's in her domain.
Yes.
And she can create pocket dimensions built from the memories of characters.
Mm-hmm.
So if we're going back to, little Jimmy whose parents were killed, and now he's an adventurer, as soon as they arrive in the Shadowfell, they could appear in a place that looks like the place that his parents were killed on the day they died. And he has to relive that and all the parties there. So you can do a lot of interesting things with like the players' backstories if you go to the Shadowfell.
That's very nice. That's a good way to work a couple of things in.
Yeah.
It turned into a few different sessions of, fighting your own demons. Manifest your own trauma as a demon. Yes.
Yeah, and like so it's the party's there and the lore is there with them. It's like, this is where you grew up. Sucks. Like just like playing everything down. Like, is that you crying over there, pussy? Okay, so yeah, so God, it's much bigger now. So yeah, you get to the Shadowfell. You get to maybe it's not all at once. Maybe like you sort of dot it around during these sort of like travels through the otherwise boring and endangering wilds. That you have a session or a sort of side bit in a session where you revisit some traumatic event from one of the player characters' pasts, or maybe something that they didn't think of as traumatic. I'm thinking now, like, if you had something happen in a session that the players were all like, yeah, that's fine, but really that's like pretty damn horrible. Like, I don't know, the way that they killed some person that they thought was a bad guy, but actually just a regular person. Like, he was just in the wrong place at the wrong time. Reliving his sort of day, he's like, going about his day, like, oh, we're going to do a bit of bouncer work at this place. Come down tonight for the extra cash? Yeah, sure, why not? He turns up and he's there like, oh, here's a sword, like, hold this. Oh, yeah, sure, whatever. And then, like, sneak attack the rogue, like, slice his throat, and that's the end of little Jimmy.
Yeah. You could do some cool stuff with that, then, because you wouldn't have to... Okay, you take an event that happened in the campaign, play it from an NPC's point of view, but when... It's almost like the player characters have an opportunity to atone for that moment, especially if they recognise it. So maybe they're far away and they can see a shadowy looking rogue approach, and it's not their character, but it's they might identify the party makeup, or they may be just like shadows, like geists or something, coming towards little Timmy or bouncer first day on the job, and they have an opportunity to intervene and save his life, or get into combat against this pseudo party of ghosty things, and actually just like atone for that moment.
You could have them fight themselves. That could be a way that you could have a party versus party fight.
Yeah. Or what? Would you make them play themselves as well?
No. So like they're their own characters, right? They're them re-experiencing that scenario that now through narrative has been portrayed as a completely different story. Like you followed this regular NPC who's not a bad person, just a regular person, but for whatever reason he's come up against the party and died.
Sure.
And you give the party the opportunity to stop that from happening
by engaging in a party versus
by
party
stopping
combat,
themselves. In which case they have to go through that combat against themselves.
Yeah.
That could be really funny,
right? Because you'd be playing. You see your compositions are. Let's stick to the ones we had before, like fighter, rogue, cleric. Let's keep it as 3 because it's easy to keep track of. Yeah, they are just shadowy versions of those classes manifesting themselves in the way that they play out. But yeah, up until that point, you're just reciting the narrative. The rogue comes along, they get into position, there's a distraction from someone and they call it out, and then the rogue slices or they can intervene, or they can chuck a dagger in, or do something to start initiative that would ultimately save Ghost Timmy. And fun. Very fun.
Okay, I hadn't thought about this. There's lots.
No. This is wild, isn't it?
Yeah. Okay. So aside, you could have traumatic events from their own past. You could relive things from the campaign from a different perspective. What else could we do? We could. I mean, it's all about tragic memories.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like the idea of picking one sort of. I mean, especially if we go back to your idea of that we've talked about briefly before about knife theory. And think of like one of those knives being some great tragedy in your life, or some moment of sorrow, or some
Yeah, being lactose intolerant.
Yeah, the memory of first discovery of lactose intolerance. Yeah, I'm thinking maybe the Raven Queen's not so interested in that, but like something of emotional value.
The Dairy Queen more interested, but the Raven Queen no.
The Dairy Queen. So if you've got those knives from the party, and like one of those knives that you snuck in is like some great tragedy, you could play through all of those scenes with that character, or with the whole party. Like, say everyone's there, but maybe like sort of infer to the person whose memory it is, like mention something that makes it clear to them it's their memory, so that they can be sort of prompted to take the lead in that situation.
Yeah, and have them react and see if they could change the course. But you can't change the course of history, because that's the sad thing. So, why is the Raven Queen doing this? Is she trying to deter the party, or is she trying to convey a message, get some more servants? Does she have an end game?
So she's supposedly like just bat shit crazy.
Yeah.
Her wants. She's supposed to be like, she's described as being supposedly insane. Like, it talks in the book about like how great wizards think that she's, you know, just off the walls and doesn't really have a point or anything that she truly wants. And that those that interpret her signs and signals, you know, they're clutching at straws because she hasn't got any great wants, really. She's just so erratic. So, I mean, that's the one, like, yeah, you could have that be the thing and, like, fine, but it doesn't really pay off for the party then going through all this extra effort on a side quest. There's got to be something punchy at the end. So, let's say, because your party are such edgelords, she wants to take these memories away from them. So she has them, because, like, her whole thing is, like, possessing souls and memories and stuff. Like Fortress of Memories. That's where all the memories go. So she wants them to... I mean, they relive them on the way, and when they get there finally, I don't think they're going to meet with the Raven Queen, because, like, meeting a god's a big deal.
Yeah.
But they will meet some, like, lower wizards or priest types at the fortress, maybe not even inside, who will address lore, and they'll discuss what's going on.
Who, in Fall Out Boy style, will say thanks for the memories, and then
so like he'll basically like, you know, this is what I brought, you know, this is what the Raven Queen wants, and they'll like they'll offer to the party to extract their memories, like these terrible tragedies, so that they're not burdened by them anymore, and give the party the chance to relinquish these from the past. And then the characters have a chance to either say, yeah, you know, like, I want to move on, or if they feel that that's so core to their being and their motivation, they can hold on to it.
Would that get the lore off their backs, so to speak, if they no longer had the memory that's caused the Raven Queen to pursue them in the first instance? Would that be a way to like resolve the side quest?
Yeah, I guess you could. Yeah, so once he's, you know, taken them all to that place and delivered something, as far as he's concerned, done the job. You know, the signs have led him to this point. He's done it all.
Mission complete. Sensational.
Yeah, exactly. So he's done it, and then, like, you know, the people there have some way of transporting the party back rather than walking all the way, and you know, that's, you could have that be the end of the lore. Like, the lore is not seen or heard from again.
Yeah.
Equally, you could have him turn up now, either again as an antagonist later when, like, the signs draw him back, or have him turn up as a friendly NPC. You know, now when he's drawn to the party following these signs, it's there because he feels like the party has some part to play in the Raven Queen's plans. So he's there to assist them in, like, a moment of great need or something. You know, because I'm assuming by now, like, having gone through this journey with him and like, had him sort of, like, quipping all the way through their memories and, like, you know, belittling them stuff, that the party really like this guy now. Yeah. So having him turn up to face the big bad guy, like, that'd be a nice little addition. Like, throw him back in there. Like, this is your payoff for having taken the time to do the side quest. You get the lore helping out when he fancies.
Tangent.
Yep.
I've had a thought. Just this is a complete different reason. So okay, we've like rewind to the point where the party decides to go with the lore.
Yep.
I'm thinking of another thing you could do with this. What if it was? I like bringing in pop culture references because I think it helps like place or plant my ideas in other people's heads a bit better.
Yeah.
What if the Raven Queen is not after a memory or a particular tragic event from the past? What if this is like Minority Report style? Raven Queen knows that your party is going to defeat your big bad, but the big bad is going to be a wonderful source of tragedy in the future, so she wants to prevent the party from ever getting powerful enough to defeat the big bad.
Ooh.
And that's why the lore is there. So it's almost like, well, it's like thought police, isn't it? That's sort of like, before you commit the crime, as it were, of defeating the bad guy, they are constantly set upon by the law in an attempt to stop them ever getting powerful enough or close enough to allow the big bad to be defeated, so that some horrible climactic event could occur. This is just me thinking of another reason for why would you keep sending the same person back and constantly try and fight them. So it might not be so much of a come to the Shadowfell, but more of a campaign driving moment.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. You could do that, and that could be the Raven Queen's ultimate goal. But given that she sort of operates such a mysterious way, this is not known to the law. But yeah, I guess all these sort of small interruptions, like the extra rest and recuperation and sort of slowing them down, it could absolutely accelerate, like the butterfly effect, you know? Like
I hadn't even thought of it like that, yeah.
It's. Oh, sorry, you're not. I thought that's what you meant.
No, so I meant more like the Raven Queen wants to kill the party so they can't defeat the bad guy, and then the bad guy can, just destroy an entire city and create a wonderful tragic moment for her to harvest later. But this idea is more of by constantly sending interruptions, you're stalling them rather than killing them outright.
Well, I mean, if she wants to kill them, great. But like, if she can't, then she's at least delaying them, and that way it could always play out as, the party's just a bit late. If they hadn't had all the interruptions, would something have been a bit different? Would the bad guy not quite have finished the ritual or whatever,
Maybe.
I mean...
But then a double irony being, because of having these extra difficult combat encounters with the law and his band of not-so-merry folks, they are getting stronger. They're getting, if you're playing an experience kind of campaign especially, they are getting stronger. They're leveling up. They are hitting other milestones or something. So, twist of fate, the Raven Queen's plan is actually hindering herself as well.
Well, who knows? Maybe she's playing it both sides. She's leveling up the fight so they can defeat the big bad, but she's slowing them down enough that the big bad gets off a big part of his attack first. So she gets the double payoff of the bad thing happens, and then also the party kill that guy.
Let's go another layer deeper. She makes the party strong enough that they can fight the big bad, because knowing that fight happening with such powerful party and such a powerful foe will inherently destroy a city, because someone's going to Kamehameha the floor or something and tear the city apart. So she knows she's going to sow tragedy by just having these two superpowers exist.
You then have to have your big bads, like the big confrontation, happen in a really public place.
Yeah.
Where you have the option to do a lot of collateral damage.
Yeah, I'm thinking like Godzilla level, destroy the city sort of thing.
That's the big bad of the campaign. It's like the party's travelling to wherever far away, and it's just because they want to fight Godzilla. It's like, bugger off the law, we have to fight fancy Godzilla. It's like, as like radioactive blasts fly across the sky. He's still another 3 sessions away.
That's a disintegration beam waiting to happen.
He just like swallowed a beholder and that's it. Like, he coughs him up after the fight. He's like, oh, thanks for that.
Oh, I had a real frog in my throat.
Oh, that really put the sour mood in me.
This entire campaign is an advert for Gaviscon. I think that's been a fun little divergence from your original plan of recurring villain, but I like the way that's gone.
You can do both. You can still have him be the recurring villain, and then the sort of the side quest opens up as an option later down the line.
And that's it, depending on how your party respond to it, or just how you want to do it. It can either play into your overall story arc, or it can just be a completely independent side quest where they remove the thorn that is the law from their side by going and giving away their memories, but in doing so, they're giving away a piece of themselves. There'd have to be a reason to do it. I mean, maybe the reward is the law stops following you and pissing you off all the time, but maybe there's like a proper penalty to losing a part of yourself.
I don't know if it'd be a penalty. I think it'd be sort of like the idea of having a weight lifted.
Okay.
If this is such a traumatic thing in your past, losing this would sort of free you up to be a bit more, I don't know, less harsh of a character.
Would you do something to the cat? Would you like bestow a feat upon them of some description, or would you give that character some sort of boon for having gone through, basically like a reward for the side quest? Because maybe the loot isn't on the cards. Although the Shadowfell full of cool loot, just thinking like, for this journey, you've done a thing. What is the result of the thing?
Yeah, I think there would definitely be some loot afterwards. but I wouldn't make it clear they're getting that until after everyone who has decided to give something has. So, like, there's no knowledge of it beforehand. Like, it's basically you have the option to give up part of your character, and then the players can decide whether that's something their character would do or not. They've got that sort of, like, internal decision. And I think after everyone's done it and had this, like, I'm imagining like a pensive, you know, like drawing this memory out into a vial or something. After everyone's done that who wants to do that, I think, and tell me what you think about this, I think I would probably give them a stat increase, either +1 charisma or +1 wisdom.
Yeah, okay.
The idea that this sort of like this sort of mental clouding has been cleared slightly.
Or I'd give them advantage on saves or something in that order.
Yeah, you could do that as well. Yeah, but I feel like a +1 isn't a lot.
It's not that much, is it? No, it's only going to take half your characters into the next tier.
Yeah, and if you're playing, you know, sort of optima build and you've got everything rounded up to an even number, maybe it's going to tempt you to round up that number afterwards to the next level. I don't know. I think I'd give like a small boon like that, and then also I'd dish out some items. So like from the vaults of the Raven Queen, of all the things that have been collected and returned that have like value, I feel like I would give some of that stuff to the party. Like everyone gets an item that is something for them, like maybe class specific or something that, you know, the lore as a companion of these guys now and you know, repeated adversary knows that will serve them well.
Yeah. Okay, and if you could tie it in with the traumatic event that you pocket dimension them out of, all the better. Maybe not something from that specific event, but if you knew it was you had to intervene in a throat-cutting incident, here's a cool dagger.
Or a neck brace.
Or a neck brace. Here's a really stiff collar to protect you from neck slicing.
Yeah, and he's really deadpan about it. Like, this is a really good thing that's going to help you. Like, it's made of very strong metal. It's a sensational neck piece.
Oh, that's it, and they're all called the sensational something.
Actually, I don't know if I like sensational. Maybe you just like keep it as badass, like, and pussies, and like use the actual lines from the character.
Yeah, okay. Lean into it a bit more. Sometimes I suppose the references need to be obvious so they can be picked up on.
Yeah, I like just hearing myself say it. It's like it doesn't mean anything. Just saying, I'm saying badass. Like badass is so clearly from that era.
Yeah, okay.
But yeah, like a nice neck brace, which gives you +2 AC to neck-based attacks.
Yeah, makes your fighter in particular resistant to having their throat cut in bed.
Well, Jake, who would that happen to? I do also like the idea that the lore is going to turn up at the end of the story and be a good guy and sort of turn up to aid the party in some way.
I like that sort of thing in a campaign, like make friends along the way, as it were, and bring them all in at the end and, you know, kill a few of them maybe.
Yeah, well, he's got the full arc. Like, he started out as the adversary and he's turned into the, you know, a real big plus now in this final battle or something.
Yeah.
The lore felt his essence reassembled once more upon the shadow plane. He felt the area on his neck where the sword had landed, and, as expected, felt nothing there, as always. The old swordsman had proven that he was pretty quick for his age. He'd remember that. This was the third time that he had encountered this band of losers on the material plane, and though through his long life he had experienced supposed deaths and been returned to the Shadowfell multiple times, with these latest failures he was growing less and less sure that the Raven Queen would welcome him back. The successes of his youth seemed far away. His ability to interpret the Raven Queen's signs and follow them to glory in her name was waning. Each time he reformed, it was further and further from the town of Las Angeles. Another sign from her, perhaps, that she no longer thought he was badass as he used to be? Or maybe a test of his faith. As he contemplated this latest failure, he looked around at the barren wasteland. He could see the light of town against the purple-grey sky, and started walking back. As he neared his dojo, he could hear already the sounds of his apprentices from inside. Each of them that had accompanied him had fallen, with the law being the last of the group to be brought down. It was no surprise that they had reconvened before him. He paused for a moment before the dojo entrance to listen to their conversations, and was disappointed to hear that the level of squabbling and bitching coming from the group. Whiny little babies. He sighed and reflected on himself at their age. Fiery. Ambitious. They need a confidence boost, he thought. If the Raven Queen wills me to confront this group again, I'm gonna need all the help I can get. They need to be focused, confident, winners. The Lord puffed out his chest and held his head high as he calmly walked into the dojo, around the group of arguing Shadar-Kai, and to the front. He waited for them to see him and fall in line, but the group continued to bicker. Quiet! Silence fell. You should be proud of yourselves. I know I'm proud. Your parents would be proud too if you told them what we did here today, which we won't. You've all learned to strike first, to be aggressive, to not be losers. I've taught you to strike hard, to put every ounce of your power behind everything you do, but I haven't taught you the third rule of Shadar-Kai. No mercy. The older you get, the more you're going to learn that life isn't fair. You wake up one morning feeling great, and then life throws a spinning heel kick into your balls and takes a big steaming shit in your mouth. You fail in a test. You get cast down. You follow some sign from the Raven Queen, then some other dude comes and steals the glory from themselves. Your cart gets set on fire. Just when you think things are going good, everything falls apart. That's how it goes. Life shows no mercy, so neither do we. We do whatever it takes to keep our heads above water. We do whatever it takes to keep moving forwards. We do whatever it takes to win. Remember who you are. You're badass. You don't give a shit. You kick ass. You're Shadar-Kai.
I don't think I've got any more questions. So
Good. In that case, I have done all of the planning. Everything's in there. There's nothing you need to know. Perfect.
I guess with that then, all that remains for this is for you to reveal the prompt for next week.
Yes. Let me just grab my monster manual.
Ooh, a critter.
Monster manual, page 274.
Yeah.
A green slard. How would you run that?
Slard. Cool.
Magic froggy boy.
Yeah, froggy, shape-changey dude. Cool. All right. I'm going to have a little think on that and come back to you next week.
Fantastic.
Thanks again for joining us for another episode of our D&D podcast, How Would You Run That? Please give a like, a subscribe, wherever it is you get your podcasts. In particular, it'd be great if you could leave us some comments on iTunes and voice notes on the Anchor platform, anchor.fm. Spread the word, and we'll speak to you again next week.
Thanks everyone. Catch you later.